What's going on, guys? Pin a Smile here. This is going to be a little bit of a different video, a little bit of a rant video. I want to give my thoughts on the knife and sword/weapon communities as a whole, because I have noticed a lot of stuff in the communities that I'm not exactly happy with, and a lot of people kind of just refuse to bring it to light and just say that's how the communities are. But I don't think it is. For starters, a lot of you are very toxic when it comes to the type of knives that people want to buy. And I've seen this from personal experience on Reddit and all the Discord servers and just from people I know. For starters, if someone doesn't really care about knives like we do, they will kind of just buy whatever they want that looks cool, right? You are all like that at one point. If I want to get a $10 gas station like M-Tech, fantasy, whatever, I should be allowed to do so without getting, chastised for it. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm carrying one right now. Vortec. A little sickle knife. You know why? Because I thought it was cool and I wanted to carry it. My point is, people, if you're not spending the money on it, don't have an opinion about it. Really. You can give your opinion if you think it's good or not, but don't yell at someone, don't chastise someone just because they have it and they choose to carry it or whatever. Because 95% of the people who own knives are usually just doing it to open boxes and shit. They don't care about the shit that we do or that we know. They don't care about the steels and all this other shit, the handle materials, the G10, the titanium, the M390, the MagnaCut. They don't care about all that. They just want to have a decent knife that they like, that they can use whenever they have an Amazon package or a letter that needs opened. I think y'all need to stop being so damn toxic to people who just want to have a cool knife. Sure, it may be in some cheap Chinese steel. Sure, it may break if they put some actual force on it. But let's be real. Am I going to use this for bushcrafting? No, I'm not. Am I going to use it for anything other than opening boxes or just carrying it for fun? No, probably not. I carry it because it's cool. And I understand what a lot of people talk about when they're saying like Mall Ninja and stuff. For me, and this goes for like the weapons communities too, Mall Ninja refers to a person who buys one fantasy-esque like fake sword and thinks they're the biggest, baddest ass when they have it. That doesn't make you a mall ninja. Or that makes you a mall ninja. What doesn't make you a mall ninja, if you just buy the stuff because you think it's cool and you just want to collect it. Obviously, it's not going to be good as a weapon or a tool or whatever. It's not meant to be. It's meant to just be something cheap and cool you can buy and be like, oh, I have this now. Cool. It's not going to be the best sword. It's not going to be the best knife. I know this sickle knife is not the best knife I have. Not even close. Did I still buy it? Yes, the fuck I did. Want to know where I bought it from? Wish.com. And you know what? I think it was a $5 well spent. Because I actually like this knife. Sure, it's not the sharpest knife I have. It's not going to hold the best edge. I don't care. It's cool. And sometimes I carry it. Just because why not? Another thing. Actually, let me get my thoughts together real quick. Okay. So, another thing I want to bring up is, now if you're a bushcrafter, weight is a problem and weight management is a big issue. But if you're just an EDC guy and you don't care and you don't have a whole pack on you and you're just carrying a few things here and there that you may or may not need, you don't need to be concerned about weight too much. like I see on pretty much every knife channel on YouTube and people on Reddit and Discord and all this other stuff are concerned about weights of pocket knives. But homie, the weight of a pocket knife is not going to be the make it or break it for you. It's really not. Like, what I'm carrying is pretty light. Aside from the Vortex you just saw, I actually started carrying that just for this video. But what I'm carrying is a titanium Balisong utility knife made by Arena Accessories. This is pretty light just because it's titanium. But I carry some pretty heavy knives in my pocket. Like, I think the heaviest pocket knife I carry is a Buck 110. And that's not the sport edition either or anything like that. It's the standard Buck 110. I just have it laying in the bottom of my pocket. That's the heaviest knife that I've carried in my pocket. And it's still barely, the only thing that makes it noticeable is when it's in the pocket, it sits flat because it's so heavy. It doesn't sit up against the side of the wall of the pocket. But that's just because the Buck 110 doesn't have a pocket clip. Carrying a 110, like, it's the heaviest folder I think I have, but that's actually pocket size, and it's still barely noticeable in your pocket. And that's made of, and a lot of that's made of brass. Brass is fucking heavy. It's dense. So I don't know what everyone is so concerned about weight for. The weight of a pocket knife, of a folding knife, is not going to be the make it or break it for you. I've always seen companies trying to make it as light as possible, and on some degree, I understand that you want to keep it light, right? If you don't want a knife to be overbuilt, just for the sake of being overbuilt, it doesn't have to be. But at the same time, trying to make it as light as possible sometimes is what's going to kill the actual performance of the knife. Now, for a folding knife, you don't really need much performance. And this is another thing I want to bring up. I'm going to finish my point about the weight situation. If you take away too much weight, the knife is barely going to be any good. I mean, for a folding knife, you don't need much performance anyway. But if you take away too much weight, you could just end up being left with something that you can barely put any pressure on, and it'll fail. That's just me though. I don't care about the weight of my knives. Fixed blades, I'm a little concerned about it because I want it to actually be strong. But again, I don't care. I carry about 3 or 4 knives on me at all times. I don't care about the weight of it. Let me get my thoughts straight. I don't care about the weight of my fixed blades that much either, but it matters more to me than my folders. Okay? Now, like I was saying about the performance issue, it's a folding knife. You're not going to be putting that much abuse on a folding knife unless you're actually trying to destroy it. Like, let's be real. I'm seeing these. I'm seeing these reviews on YouTube and shit, and on Reddit and Discord and all like the knife servers and shit. They're all concerned about the performance of folding knives. It's a folding knife. You're not going to be using it for any hard tasks. The most you'd be using a folding knife for, maybe, is like, feather sticking. And that's for bushcraft. I'm not even saying for normal, like, everyday use. That's for bushcrafting. And for everyday use, like tape and boxes and shit, you're not going to be using a folding knife like that. You're not going to be putting it to that much abuse. Now, what does matter a little bit is edge retention, and the resisting the snapping the blade. But let's be real. The failure point on a folding knife is always going to be the pivot and the locking mechanism. it's never going to be the actual blade. One, not only is the blade too small to actually snap if you're doing use with it, but it's always going to break at the pivot. Unless it's something like a Buck 110 or like the lock, or like it's like a back lock or something, or Cold Steel with their triad lock, the pivot will always be the failure point, not the actual blade. And that's why I don't get why a lot of people are concerned about the performance of folding knives, because let's be real, you're not going to get that performance out of a folding knife. Fixed blade, yeah. With a fixed blade, any fixed blade, you will get that performance that you want. But for a folding knife, it doesn't matter, because you're not going to be using a folding knife mostly anything else except for like cutting boxes, or like if you're in construction, which I think is, you know, pretty heavy use for a knife. You're going to be using that knife pretty often for like drywall, maybe some wood here and there, you know, but even still, it's not that much of use that the knife wouldn't be able to handle, you know. That's why I don't understand why so many people are concerned about the performance of folding knives. Now, of course, I'm just a rando idiot on the internet. I don't care what you buy. I don't care what steels you want. You can get whatever you want. You can have whatever opinion you want. I don't care. But even if you get the best steel with the best handle materials, the best edge retention, it's still not going to matter at the end of the day, because you've still got a folding knife. That pivot and that lock is going to be the failure point. Not the blade itself, not the handle, the lock and the pivot. Now, I don't care too much. I don't care really at all for the performance of knives, at least for my folding knives, because I use them, and if they break, they break. I'll buy another one. I'm not the one who spends, you know, $200, $300, $400 on a folding knife. My most expensive knife, that's not like a sword or something, is the Tie-Slide gravity knife from Daily Carry Co. That was $200. I've used that to hell and back. It's M390 steel, titanium bodied, and it's pretty thick. The blade is pretty thick too. It's a pretty chunky boy, and I've used that pretty, you know, good. Even though it's a gravity knife, you're probably not supposed to be using a gravity knife like that, but I do, because I know a gravity knife, at least like the way the exoskeleton design is, it's going to be one of the strongest locks that a knife can have. I've used that to hell and back. You know why? Because it's a knife and it's a tool that's meant to be used and abused. Now, sure, knives aren't exactly supposed to be used as pry bars or screwdrivers, but a lot of times people don't carry that much shit. Non-EDC people aren't going to carry that shit. So if someone uses a knife for a screwdriver or a pry bar, it's completely okay, because 90% of the time, if someone doesn't carry that type of shit, they're not going to have that much of an expensive knife anyway. So it's okay for non-knife people to use that shit like that. Now, us knife people, we know that's not supposed to happen. We know that. But at the same time, 95% of the people that have a knife on planet Earth, or at least in the US, only use it to open packages and shit. So if they use it as like a screwdriver or a pry bar and something that a knife is not meant to be done for, it's okay. But my point is, don't be too concerned about the performance of a folding knife, because you're not going to get the performance you want out of a folding knife. Now, I'm not saying that I have the best folding knives and I don't have the best fixed blades. I don't. My most expensive knife is the Tie-Slide, like I just said, and my most expensive usable knife is my Buck 119. Like for EDC. I mean, I have a few more usable expensive knives, but they're more for like, they're big Bowie type shit. Like the Honshu Pioneer. That was 125. And even though that is a usable knife, it is a usable Bowie. Even though I carry it sometimes, it's too big to actually use for EDC purposes, unless you're like looking for a fight. But my most expensive usable knife that I have, fixed blade wise, is my Buck 119. And that does exactly what I need it to. I've took it out and done some bushcrafting shit with it. I've batoned with it. I've feather sticked with it. I've skinned a few knives with it. I've skinned a few sticks with it, just to make some steaks. I've done quite a lot with it. It doesn't have the best steel either. It's got 420 with Buck's signature Boss heat treatment. I don't need the best steel to do shit like everyone says that you do. You really don't. Most of the knives that I have, because I like Ozark Trail knives. I like the Walmart knives. I like the Walmart folding knives because they're cheap, they're easy, and if they break, you just throw it away and get a new one, right? Easy. Most of them are 440C, unless stated otherwise. I personally love 440C knives because 440C may not be the best steel for edge retention or corrosion resistance, but it does its job. It's a cheap steel that you can use when, you know, you don't want to, or when you don't have anything better, or if you don't want anything better. It's just a knife that you can use if you want something cheap, and it does its job. It's a knife at the end of the day. It's not going to do all the jobs people want it to, because it's a Walmart knife, but at the same time, like I said, 90% of the people that have folding knives aren't going to be, you know, they're going to be people who don't really care. They don't really care, and they just want a knife that they can like open packages with or something like that. My point still stands. I've used quite a few expensive knives. I don't own really any because I just choose not to buy them, because I'd rather have a collection that I like versus a collection that is going to impress anyone else. But I've used quite a few expensive knives, and a lot of the expensive knives that people buy, they're not really worth the hype. Like the most expensive knife I want at the moment is a Microtech OTF. I will say with OTFs, like with automatic knives, price does matter. I will say that. With automatic knives, price does matter. At least with OTF knives. Microtech has some pretty good ones. I've used their Ultratech. My friend has one, and that one's pretty good. That one I could put through some actual abuse, and it'd be good. But it's because it's made with quality. At the same time, though, like I said before, not everyone is going to be putting their knives through that type of shit. So if someone, now I've experienced this part firsthand. If someone posts a knife on like a server or a subreddit or whatever, saying, hey, this is my first knife, or look at the knife I just got, you know, and it's like a Chinese M-Tech, whatever. I'm all Ninja fan, it's a knife. Don't belittle the kid. Don't belittle that person. Maybe they just like knives and they thought it was cool. Obviously, if you're, 12, 13, 14 years old and get your first knife, it's not going to be some, super expensive, really good knife. It's going to be something cheap. And I know what a lot of you are going to say. Oh, why not go with something like Civivi or Gerber? Those are good, good budget brands. Maybe they don't want those knives. The point I'm trying to get across is maybe people don't want to buy the good shit if they just want something they like. Like I said before, this isn't exactly good. I have this because I like it. This is not going to be an actual EDC for me. This is a knife that I carry if I want something fun. And this is fun to me. I like this knife. I think it's cool. But that doesn't mean if I were to post it on Reddit and Discord, and I have posted on those sites, I've been belittled for it. And I'm sitting here like, why are you belittling me when it's not your money that I'm spending? And it's not your choice of what I buy. I just don't get it, because a lot of you are toxic to those like, it's okay to, you know, let the person know, hey, that's not really a good knife, but it's cool, right? And that's okay. I've seen a lot of comments like that, and I actually respect those people because they explain that they're not the best knives that they got, but they're not belittling them for getting it, right? What I don't like is when people are like, you're fucking stupid. Why would you get that shit over a Gerber or a Civivi? Why would you get that over a buck? You could have had so much more worth over that, but you got that instead. And I'm just sitting there like, dude, chill out. It's not that serious. Not your money, chill out. Now, another point I want to bring up is, well, let me get my thoughts together real quick. Okay, another point I want to bring up is the, I guess, collection community. I've talked to a few people. Now, this mostly goes for like the Discord communities. It goes to the Reddit ones too, but I've seen it more like with the Discord knife communities. A lot of them seem to think that collecting is all about getting things that are worth money, and yes, in some ways it is. But how I see it, if you're collecting something, if you have a collection of something, get what makes you happy. You don't always have to get the expensive shit that you can sell off later and make a ton of money. If that's what's important to you, then you can do it. Go for it. But I've heard a lot of people try and belittle me because my collection isn't the most expensive and I don't have the most expensive shit in it. And they belittle me because mine isn't really worth anything. And you know what? Who cares if it's not worth anything? It's not your collection, right? It's my collection, and I'm happy with it. Right? People call me Mall Ninja, you know, and all this extra shit because I have like a lot of those fantasy knives. Like I said before, that doesn't make me Mall Ninja. What makes you Mall Ninja is you think you're the biggest, baddest ass. I know I'm not. But that doesn't mean I'm not allowed to like those knives or swords. I buy them because I think they're cool and I like the look and I want them in my room, right? But they belittle me because they always keep saying that those knives and swords ain't gonna be worth shit. When I'm older, I'm like, I don't care. I bought them because looking at them and being around them makes me happy. My collection is my safe space. Being around it makes me happy, and I know a lot of you knife and sword people out there will feel with me on that. It is my safe space. I like being there. It makes me happy when I'm having a bad day. You know? That's why I tend to stay out of a lot of the knife communities. I've gotten banned from quite a lot of them because of my opinions on shit. That's why I don't really use Reddit anymore. I've gotten a lot of my accounts banned and a lot of myself banned from a lot of other servers because of how I feel about knives and shit. Because people don't like my opinions on knives. And that's fine. You don't have to like my opinion because an opinion is an opinion. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. And I have mine. I like my knives. I like my swords. I like everything of mine. It doesn't have to be the best shit. But I like it anyway. So, those are my thoughts on the knife, sword, and weapon community as a whole. Generally, y'all are pretty nice. Sometimes some of you can be toxic and, you know, overly aggressive towards like fantasy-esque things for no reason. And I think a lot of y'all should tone that down a bit. But all in all, y'all are... I like the communities. I like being in the communities. I like engaging in the communities. And I hope that my opinion doesn't offend anyone. So, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.